I am pleased to inform you that we have arrived at the labyrinth. Please be advised that the punishment for trespassing is Please be advised that electrical storms on the surface of Tartarus make departure. Resident count is as follows: 3,071. Resident deaths include. The interior can be chilly. Take a scarf with you, Captain. I would also ask that you leave your captain's ID with me, in the event that you do not return. I can make the assurance that I will not leave with another captain. Oh, speak of the devil. Captain, I am receiving a transmission from the prison's dock.
Attention, unauthorized spacecraft. This is a maximum security installation. Your presence here is an explicit violation of UDL corporate policy. You are hereby confined to your docking platform until a ticket detailing your crimes has been filed and notarized, at which point your vessel will be seized and you will be executed. I wager it'll take a bit longer than it takes you to lose your patience and storm out of your ship looking to get shot. To be honest, that'd make my job a lot easier. You come out, we shoot you full of holes, and then everyone goes about their... All right, I'm feeling generous. I'm transmitting the idea of a productive, law-abiding employee so you can see what one looks like before you die. Anyway, Tartarus Docking Authority signing up. Hang on. Another ship just pulled into your dock. Wait, is that from the groundbreaker? What the? Pay no mind to that, just have a...
Transmission terminated. Biometric ID received. Transferring data to external cartridge. How can I be of assistance? Take care.
The captain did right by us once. Now it's our turn. The board will never own Groundbreaker. Not while I breathe. Push on, Mardet!
Stay down, Hullhead.
Dump the bodies of the rest of the car.
Open fire!
Somebody clean up this mess. Almost wasted my time!
Take you! Don't mess with us.
Stay down.
On your toes, Captain. With us?
Unexpected security patrol.
Take you!
Take him down!
Can't let you take all the glory here, bounty hunter.
The prison have for bars when it's got a storm like that guarding the gates.
I've got to admit, I'm not too keen on walking into a prison. They lock me up, I'm liable to kill everyone trying to get back out. Whew. We have a lot of shooting to do, Captain.
Keep your shoulders up.
Don't mess with us.
Authorized personnel.
Carry on.
Keep him quiet, Captain.
got your paperwork squared away?
Well, look who it is. I'll be damned. I was prepping the studio for our announcement, and here you are as a bonus. I had heard you'd taken a mechanic under your wing. What's the matter, girl?
The captain's treated me right. Better than any of you bored folk ever have. I'm exactly where I want to be.
Ah, I knew I smelled Monarch when you lot walked in. The stench of sulfur.
Keep talking, and you'll be smelling iron. Ain't nobody so important.
When you go off and get yourself shot, try to avoid taking one to the face. My word! It's a wonder what Phineas saw in you. Then again, he's an insane person. Thankfully. Yes, he is an extraordinarily obstinate fellow, isn't he? Fine, he isn't working, but that's between us. As far as my adoring citizens will know, we've turned a dangerous crackpot into a working-class man. Oh yes, go on, wake them up, add more mouths to feed. That'll solve our starvation problems. I don't know what half-baked plans that simpleton in a lab coat has been leading you through. Let me ask you something, Captain. Have you at any point thought about not fucking up our entire
We're helping, which is more than you can say.
I'm making actual progress towards stabilization and recovery. If I and my people can ride it out in luxury and happiness, yes, yes, I would. I don't know if you've noticed, Captain, but Halcyon's pretty much a lost cause. I'll admit, there's no shortage of talent in the scientists and engineers there. Ugh. I can't exactly afford more havoc than you've already caused. Fine.
What the fuss is about a blasted lab coat?
The fugitive's a fugitive. Let it go.
The chairman himself is here. He ain't just a fugitive.
You get tired of patrolling, just go rough somebody up. What?
We're really doing this, huh?
Take a breath now, folks. Once we're up there, I suspect we ain't gonna have time to stop shooting.
You have an uncanny talent for complicating my life. You've been working with Dr. Wells from the beginning. When we moved to arrest him, he was prepared. I lost good soldiers in the attempt. You've disrupted the balance of power. You've upset the natural order. Typical. Running your mouth in the middle of a crisis. It's almost as if the force of your personality is well documented. I simply never imagined you could turn the system upside down. I should have dealt with you a long time ago. You were always too dangerous. I was intrigued by your potential. I believed I could rely. Leaving you alive was my greatest mistake. I have Dr. Wells in my custody. Once I've secured his cooperation, I can move forward with the program. I can repair the damage. Fair enough. This prison is equipped with an automechanical warden. I've had it programmed to eliminate you on sight and rinse your remains down a drain. And don't worry, I will inform Dr.
Process. Unexpected noise. Sir.
Incoming!
Why won't you just die?
Don't mess with us.
Get me out of here!
You made it. I can hardly believe my eyes. You didn't have to do this, you know. Risk your life just to save mine. I'm all right. Akande wanted my cooperation, and she was prepared to beat it out of me. If you hadn't arrived, I might have... You've left the board in tatters, but Halcyon is still on the verge of starvation. I just hope we're not too late. You and I are going to have to work harder than ever to save Halcyon. Earth has gone dark. We haven't received a single message in 3 years. There's been no communication. 2 years ago, the Earth's Directorate's frigate disappeared on their way back to Earth. We don't know what they discovered when they arrived, or if they arrived at all.
So we've got to make do on our own. Seems to me that'll make us stronger in the end anyhow.
You're quite right. We've got no choice but to make do on our own.
You mean... we're all alone out here? Really alone?
I'm afraid so, Miss Holcomb. Halcyon is the only home we have left. Earth isn't going to help us. No one's going to help us now. We're alone out here, and I don't know if we're going to survive. Yes. I don't know what happened, but something must have gone horribly wrong. I don't know why Earth's gone silent. I don't even know if Earth exists anymore. We have no connection back to Earth, and return is likely impossible. We're completely alone out here. I heard it from Akande herself. She tried to pressure me into joining her side, you see. Tried to make me realize that all hope is lost. She was half right. We are alone, and we're going to have to fend for ourselves. You might have heard of the Earth Directorate's frigate. Half the colony's entire military was on that ship. They were returning to Earth when they vanished without... That was 2 years ago. We haven't heard a word from them since. Yes, Akande mentioned as much. Earth hasn't sent us a single message in 3 years. Akande had kept the truth to herself, perhaps with good reason. Can you imagine what would have happened? Yes, you were the one who reactivated that relay station, weren't you? Any message from Earth would have arrived unencrypted. It's been 3 years. The board tried using drones to contact Earth. Every one of those drones sent back the same encrypted message. Earth is completely silent. I wasn't trying to hide the truth from you, but after all you've done, I owe you an explanation. Yes, I experimented on the Hope's colonists. Each of my experiments... You are my first and only success. I didn't tell you about the others because... Thank you. Perhaps... My apologies. I need to get a hold. If you have any more questions, ask me. I'll answer as best I can. I had hoped your fellow colonists might hold the key to saving Halcyon, but I don't have... I'll do what I can. It's time I return to my lab. I'll try to save as many of the Hope's colonists as I can. You're on... Thank you. I'm going to need all... I know I've asked too much of you already. I revived you into a strange and unfamiliar colony. I put your life at risk. We were going to save this colony, you know. That's what I told myself when I pulled you from the Hope. Now, I don't know what to think. Earth is gone, and we're going to need a miracle. I always suspected Halcyon might collapse one day. I just...
The OSI teaches that everything in the universe happens according to the grand plan. But the stranger that arrived in Halcyon was an unplanned variable. From the moment he landed in Emerald Vale, his actions altered the course of history. The events on Tartarus brought about the end of the board's authority. But the board's mistakes would haunt the colony for decades to come. The damage they left behind would require the work of a generation to repair. Dr. Phineas Wells began reviving a handful of the Hope's colonists. Engineers, scientists, technicians, and intellectuals. They were among the brightest minds the Earth had ever sent out into the stars. The Hope scientists and engineers woke up in a colony descending headlong into total collapse. With no way to return to Earth, they had no choice but to band together and devote themselves to the cause of saving Halcyon. The people of Halcyon were nothing if not hardy. In the absence of the board's authority, many of the colony's settlements banded together with a single purpose in mind: survival. Life was especially hard in the years to come. Some towns dissolved by attrition and starvation, but most of them found a way to carry on. In the years to come, Halcyon was forced to reckon with its newfound freedom. The board was gone, and for better or worse, the colony was responsible for its own destiny. Left unchecked, the war on Monarch consumed both MSI and the Iconoclasts. And when the sulfur clouds settled, only stragglers from both factions remained. Some found their way to Sublight, some to Terra 2, and some lived their final years fighting for food in the wilderness. In the end, only the beasts remained. Sublight Salvage adapted to the changes in Halcyon, shifting their business model to suit the times. Their claims of legitimacy were scrutinized, but ultimately unquestioned. Lilia Hagen would continue to protect her family as ruthlessly as ever. Adelaide McDevitt replaced Reed Thompson as the leader of Edgewater. She and her followers transformed Edgewater in their image. Anyone loyal to Reed was pressured into leaving town, and those who stayed behind adapted to her way of life. Adelaide transformed the old cannery into a new garden. The nearby Edgewater Cemetery provided a convenient source of fertilizer. Under the leadership of Junlei Tennyson, the Groundbreaker held firm against corporate influence. The ship's mechanical stability gave Junlei the time to educate a promising generation of engineers schooled in her family's traditions. The future of the Groundbreaker looks promising. The rediscovery of the Hope and the abandonment of the Lifetime Employment Program forced Byzantium to come to terms with some uncomfortable realities about the state of Halcyon. While Byzantines were reluctant to surrender the luxuries they'd grown accustomed to, the board's diminished authority gave them little choice in the matter. Nearly everyone had to learn to make do with less. Some even had to get jobs. It was a dark time indeed. Life in Halcyon was sobering for Felix Millstone. The grand revolution he dreamed of never came. There was no great awakening for the colony, no celebrations in the streets. There was only the hard, desperate work of trying to repair a broken colony. Felix never had a head for numbers, but if there was labor to be done, he was there to help. Eventually, Felix realized that the work of a revolution was done with two hands. As much as he enjoyed his adventures aboard the Unreliable, the vicar, known as Max, eventually decided that it was time to move on. to live out the life he had sought so long to create. He knew there were many in the colony who carried burdens much worse than the ones he had struggled with, and he devoted himself to easing their suffering wherever he could. He only ever took up arms again to defend the defenseless. Unshackled from a lifetime of striving and fighting the universe and himself, Vicar Maximilian de Soto was finally at peace. Though Parvati eventually grew comfortable aboard the Unreliable, she never quite came out of her shell. She seemed to prefer the company of Ada to the crew, and she could often be found neck-deep in cables and grease, telling Ada funny stories from her childhood. While the colony fell into chaos, she found an island of relative peace with Ada, and they formed an unusual bond. She decided to remain aboard the Unreliable permanently as its chief and sole engineer. As hard as she tried to drink them away, Nyoka's memories eventually overcame her. Traveling with the crew served as a constant reminder of the family she'd lost, and so she eventually returned to Monarch to get back to what she found most comfortable: the deep end of a bottle and the far end of a trail. Few have seen her since, but travelers often swear they hear her and her machine gun in the night, screaming swears and spitting bullets. Before his untimely death, Captain Alex Hawthorne had plans to restore and modify, for combat purposes, a sanitation and maintenance automechanical that he'd found in a state of disrepair in Emerald Vale's scrapyard. That unit remains broken down and forgotten in the Unreliable supply closet to this day. Minister Clark was released from house arrest, and his contact with you gave him a sense of renewed purpose and vigor. Once it became clear that no help would be coming from Earth, he threw his considerable efforts and talents into helping Halcyon manage the crisis before it. Chairman Rockwell served as the public face for the changes in Halcyon to come. Whenever you needed strings pulled or a voice to sell a policy change, Rockwell was only too happy to oblige. As for Dr. Phineas Wells, he spent his remaining years in his orbital lab. He was never able to come to terms with his own past, troubled by the decision of placing all his faith in the first colonist he ever revived, the infamous captain of the Unreliable. The revival project yielded mixed results. Phineas, weighed down by limited support and his own guilt, struggled to revive more than a handful of scientists and engineers. They made a heroic effort to solve the colony's problems, but with small numbers and facing long odds, their solutions never caught on. Only a few of the Hope's colonists were successfully revived. Wells died before he could see the fruits of his labor. He passed away a haunted man, crushed by the guilt of his failures. Small, petty factions squabble over what remains of the colony. Every attempt to reach out to Halcyon's neighbors is met with silence. And what about you, the unplanned variable in the history of Halcyon? Long after Wells passed away, you carried on his work with more energy, determination, and brilliance than he could ever muster. The years that followed were hard, but Halcyon survived by the efforts of the Hope's most promising colonists, the greatest of which was you. No one knows what's happened to Earth, and no one knows what the future has in store for Halcyon. All we know for certain is this: the name of the Unreliable and that of its intrepid captain will remain the subject of countless stories for years to come.